Affirmative action in college admissions. A local professor talked about that in a recent taping with Dr. Phil that's expected to air soon here on CBS 8. He's joining us now. Dr. J. Luke Wood is SDSU's Vice President for Student Affairs and Campus Diversity and Chief Diversity Officer. Dr. Wood, thank you so much for your time today on the floor.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
First off, I just want to get into what are these two cases? What is the significance of these two cases in front of the Supreme Court?
Yeah, so let me start out with what the cases are. So essentially, UNC Chapel Hill and Harvard were sued by an organization called Students for Fair Admissions. And what they're alleging is that because of essentially affirmative action practices, they're saying that students who identify as Asian are held to a higher standard and therefore less likely to be admitted. And so they're saying that essentially that the policy that's meant to promote diversity is actually a discriminatory policy. Now, in California, we have been under Prop 209 since 1996, which means that we cannot, in California, use a person's race to admit them to a college or university. So I can't say, hey, you're a person who's Black or a person who's from the Native American community and admit. So we're already in a different place than most of the country, but this change will be passed by the Supreme Court. What will happen is that we will lose affirmative action nationwide, and other states will be in a similar position as in California.
So we're kind of skipping forward here, but your opinion is that, along with many others who are court watchers, that with a strong conservative majority on top of Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson recusing herself, that this is kind of fait accompli. Affirmative action will be struck down in these.
Yeah, affirmative action will be struck down, and what it'll mean is that you will not be able to consider, even if it's in a combination of other factors, a person's race when making decisions about college admissions. But with these cases, they always reverberate far beyond college admissions. So it will hit companies and it'll hit nonprofits. It'll be felt throughout the legal landscape in general, which will essentially say that there's no such thing as a race-based preference anymore.
So what do you see as being the most immediate initial reaction to this? What's the next consequence after this ruling?
Well, the consequence after this ruling is going to be essentially less diversity and inclusion at these institutions. And that's not coming from me. Actually, the University of California president and chancellors released a statement regarding this, noting what has happened within their own institutions since 1996, when the state outlawed race-based preferences due to Prop 209. And what they've said is, hey, we have put all of these different mechanisms into place, and despite that, we still struggle to have the kind of diversity that's representative of our state. So I do think that there are strategies and practices that institutions can employ, but ultimately, what is happening is that the Supreme Court, based upon bad information, based upon a political stance, is now going to be making a decision that will end affirmative action effectively in college admissions in the United States.
Was there a real fairness fight here? Were people who are not being admitted to schools using race-based criteria, who are being left out, were they being harmed by those practices? And I'm sorry, we only have about a minute left.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the answer in short is no. What we do find is that in the inverse, on the opposite side of this, is that college admissions are inherently designed to create a lack of access for students who identify as Black, Latinx, Latina, Native American students. For example, oftentimes it's based upon your high school GPA and your test scores, right? Test scores are being phased out, but have historically been used to exclude students of color, because having access to the test and to all the test preparation is, guess what, a very strong predictor of how well you do. And really, those tests have been a predictor of income more than anything else. Mm-hmm. And with this move away from it, what you're going to see is, even in places like California, where we still have, different efforts that are meant to try to promote diversity outside of Prop 209, you're going to see pushback coming from a lot of different agencies who are going to have this shock response to what's taking place at the national level. We're seeing it already, of course, in terms of the policies that you see in Florida, in Texas, in North Carolina. We'll never see that to the same extent here in California, but this is still a bad signal.
A huge shift this represents. Dr. Wood, thank you so much for your time. It was very good to talk to you. Looking forward to talking to you again. Looking at your resume and who you are and finally getting to meet you, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.